Okay, perfect. And you can see my screen. So let's quickly check. Who can tell me where we got to last week? Remember, we're looking at the 4 areas of mathematics, and we're looking at early numeracy. And what do you remember from last week? Let's go there. Let's check. Rochelle, are you with us? Oh, yes, you are.
Yeah,
Yes, right.
I'm here.
Yes. All right,
Um,
Rochelle, tell me. What can
yeah,
you
I can
recall?
remember. I can remember we were talking about the elders, and we had to create like a little task where everyone um had a different elder where they had to say how they would teach it. And yeah, we were there by the shapes and patterns and those things.
Okay, perfect. All right,
Yeah.
great. So we looked at the concept of mathematizing, all right? And we looked at each area and what does it mean to mathematize within these areas. All right. So today we're going to look at, did we do geometry and spatial senses? Going once.
No, I think it was the
No.
one just before. Um,
Yes. We probably did numbers and operations, like Simon says, and now it makes sense that we start off at geometry and spatial
yeah,
sensing.
yeah, I think we started with this one.
Okay, perfect. So I want you to think a little bit in terms of when you hear the word geometry, what do you think of? Right? If you recall high school and all of that, you probably think of a lot of formulas, a lot of drawing of shapes and having to work out these weird little problems to do with shapes. On an ECD level, geometry works along with spatial senses, right? So a spatial sense is how you know where you are in relation to something else. So I know that I'm behind my table. I know that my water is arm's length away, and I know that my charger, I have to stand up and go fetch it. So I know where I am and where different things are in relation to me, right? Children don't necessarily know this from a young age. So if you go to like a very, very, very young baby, you close your eyes and you play peekaboo. You close and you open again. They laugh and they giggle because if they can't see your face, you don't exist. All right. And as soon as you're there, you're back there again. All right. So that's the start of it. And then little children bump into things, right? Why? Because they still don't know where they are in relation to the space around them. And a part of math, right, is teaching children spatial sense. And that is taught through geometry. So geometry is a part of maths that works with shapes, the size of shapes, where shapes are, how shapes fit around each other. It deals with directions. It deals with movement. And because of this, it helps us classify the world we live in. So if we don't have these skills, we struggle to make sense of the world that we live in, right? We struggle with where we are, who's not there, what needs to be here, what's missing from this, how to pack a cupboard. We struggle with all of those very, very, very basic skills. Now, children who are busy learning about spatial sense and geometry, how do we know? So what's our checklist? Number one, right? Children start by recognizing this and describing shapes. So this is a square, that's a circle, that's a triangle. All right. Then only do they start comparing them, right? So first recognize, then compare, and then look for the common shapes, right? So it's recognize, compare, and common parts, right? So once I can say that this is a triangle and that is a square, right? The green is a triangle, yellow is a square. I can then say, okay, what's the difference? Let's count the sides. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we start going to the attributes. Children then have the ability to put shapes together and to take shapes apart, right? So if I add 4 triangles, I can make a square, right? If I add 4 small squares, I can make a bigger square. On a much simpler level, children can also determine whether the shapes are the same size or not, right? You start with this physically, and then, of course, visually later. And in high school, you measure it out, right? They also show growth in being able to match, being able to sort, being able to put things in a series, and regrouping, right? So taking a whole load of objects and regrouping them into the different types of shapes, different types of colors, biggest to smallest, right? And sizes also. Then they start learning. So we've got all of these basics, and then we take them outside and we start learning directionality, ordering, and positioning. What are the important words to use, right, with geometry? Number one, it's up, down, over, under, top, bottom, inside, outside, front, behind, which is also an important literacy tool to learn. So these words are what children learn to develop when they learn geometry. The goal of this lesson is to show you that different parts of math, and that's why we call it mathematizing rather than teaching math. Different parts of math allow children to develop different life skills, right? And it converts into their language also. So how do we do this? How do we do this in our ECD sentence, right? Number one, we encourage children to look at different shapes, right? We look at books, we work with puzzles, we build with blocks. Sometimes we even take walks and we find triangles and squares and circles out in nature. Very importantly, we give children as much opportunity as possible, right, to handle shapes themselves. Touch the shapes, feel the shapes, work with containers, work with shape sorters, right, build puzzles. This is all helping with geometry. Then, when we go towards more advanced teaching of geometry, we encourage children to climb in and out of boxes, climb the outdoor equipment, go over, go under, go through, and start to experience yourself in a space. Right? So that's all the child. And remember, we start teaching from me out. So the child first does it with their body, and then the child does it with somebody else. Right? So either they do it with their toys or they do it with each other. Place this one in front of this. Go in the box, out the box. Put your toy in the box, put your toy out the box. And that's how we teach. Once we've got that concept, we start by putting new shapes together. And we take them apart. So this can be through cutting paper, molding clay, playing with blocks. Lego is very good for this, right? And these are the words again. We have movement words, distance words, location words, right? And these are all important. So location words is where something is. Over, under, in, out, below, in, front, back. Then you have movement words, right? Going upwards, going towards, going away. It curves, it's straight. And the most advanced form is distance wording. Near, far, close, short, and long. All right, and that's a quick overlook at geometry. But because we are practical at this, I want you to quickly tell me about how you have seen shapes being used in a classroom that is quite unique in a lesson. All right, so let's quickly check. No, actually, let's split this into a group activity. All right, you're going to do a geometry-based lesson for me. In this lesson, I want you to use directionality and sense, spatial sense. So you're going to start with shapes. You're going to teach a shape. You're going to teach a child's positioning in it. And I want to hear you use words of directionality. I'm going to split you into 2 groups. And I'm going to give you like 5 minutes max to do this. And come back and share how you're going to teach your shape. All right? You're going to teach a shape, directionality, and spatial all in one lesson. There are going to be 2 classes for each, and it should come up now on your screen. There we are. Let's go. Let's get going. It is 5 minutes to go. Right, so children who are learning about patterns and measurement can also make comparisons, right, of different objects based on 1 or 2 attributes. So this is taller, this is smaller, this is rounder, that is more, this is lower, right? And they show progress in using standard and non-standard measures for length. So how do we do this? What are the opportunities we have of making this a skill, right? Number 1, we increase awareness of patterns. We look for designs in pictures. We do patterns when we move. Clap, clap, sit. Clap, clap, jump. Clap, clap, sit. Clap, clap, jump, right? We look at recurring events and we draw attention to it. So awareness is number 1. Then we point out when children are playing about what patterns are happening, right? And this is usually through song and poetry. Then we let children work out their own ways of measuring, right? Children who later have to learn about centimeters and meters do a lot better if they actually understand the principle of measurement and what that means for them. Then we do building blocks. Cooking is an important activity. So making sandwiches, cooking, making a simple meal, right? Even if it's just like putting together stuff to make cupcakes at school or something like that, teach it an important way of learning how to measure. We also look at science experiments that involve measuring, right? And we look at container use, which is quite important, right? How many containers of this are we going to put? And 3 containers of that. And then we look for ways to help children make comparison, but this you already know, right? What's important is that patterns and measurement lead to time, right? Lead to the skills of learning how to tell time. So how do we teach this? Number 1, we count out seconds. So, okay, 10, 9, 8, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? We count out seconds. And then we also compare how long different activities take. Oh, he was running for a long time, right? And we start with daily time references. And this is something I've covered before, right? Before the story, after lunch, before break, right? So that's first. That's quarter 1. That's the first term that they're doing that. Then you're going into more abstract comments. Yesterday, tomorrow, next month, next week. And these are quite advanced topics for very young children. We use charts, we use graphs. So it could be a thing of like, let's work out our doggy's colors. Let's work out the types of pets we have. What is your favorite food? And then we count how many people say pasta and we write it down, and how many people say pizza and we count that down. All right. And we start charting this so that they can start seeing patterns. Now, Books are beautiful opportunities to mathematize. Story time is a great opportunity for you to teach these skills, right? So I want you to think of stories, right? And how that story teaches a mathematical concept. Right, let's go back a little bit there. Right, I'm not going to do Jan Brett's The Mitten because I think that you're going to have much better stories. So think of this. You're going to tell us a story and use that story to teach us a mathematical concept. Are you able to think up one without me putting into a group? Don't tell me your answer. Just think up now. Think of a story. So I'll start with one that you cannot use later. Goldilocks and the Three Little Bears. What do we have? We have the concept of too hot, too cold, right? The little house. That is geometry. And that is pattern finding, right? And that's also spatial sense. She got on the one bed, then she sat on the chair, and it was too high, too low, right? And you're going to tell me the story, right? And this is a bit of a longer activity. You're going to tell me a story, and you're going to teach me a mathematical principle in that story. So make me repeat something mathematical in that story to teach me a principle. Do you understand? Are there any questions with this activity? Because I'd like us to get started with it. I'm going to give you about 10 minutes to do this one. And I'm going to split into groups of 3 this time. All right. Any questions? Going once? Going twice? All right. Let's create the room. So you're going to tell me a story and point out where the math skills are in that story and teach me something mathematical as an ECD person. Okay, let's do. We're going to recreate them and we're going to do 2 to 3 people per room. All right. So it's going to be Shania, Irene, Kaylin in one room, Monet and Tendai in another room, and then Elia Goring and La Rochelle in another room. All right. I look forward to hearing your stories. Let's go. Tilly, I'm going to move you to room 2.